What's up, everybody? Brett here. Super stoked today to be bringing you some more Total War Warhammer 2 quick battle action. I'm going to be fighting against Dog of War today in his Invis build of Skaven. I love this composition here. Super fun. I'm going to be playing as the Pirates of Sartosa. Araness Assault Spite will be my Lord of Choice. So, guys, we'll slow-mo it here as we break down the armies. But let me just say first off, this battle was super fun for me. Not often do I play on the ladder and have people take these types of just like unique builds. People always try to try hard everything, and this build has some elements of try harding. I could see an all rush Vanguard deployable invisible build, and I keep calling it invis, but like stalk based build being incredibly effective versus the Vampire Coast, because they like to bring a lot of guns, and those guns aren't good in melee. And then you're able to overwhelm the weak zombie defenses that they have, and you can get onto the guns, and you can get probably an easy win that way sometimes. But also, this is just kind of a fun build to micro. We've got the Gunner Rudders with poison. You only need one of them to have poison for whatever they're shooting at to be affected by the poison. So that's kind of an efficient play there. We've got the Eshin Triads in the front. These guys are Vanguard deployable, invisible. You know, anti-large can be good. I mean, if in the meta right now, I think the Prometheans are pretty effective, the gunnery mobs, and I think you're seeing a lot of that, so maybe that's the thought process behind that. And then Death Runners can chew up all infantry all day. Great leadership for Skaven, and they also have their armor sundering, the Weeping Blade attacks, which is good versus big stuff, good versus little stuff. It's going to be very effective no matter what. And then lastly, we've got a hero core here, which includes the Lord of Choice, Deathmaster Snicks himself. He's got several really cool abilities. The Sigil, which does damage. We've got the Whirl of Weeping Blades, which is pretty sick, does AoE damage. Then we have the debuffs that you'll find on the standard assassins, which make them incredible at sniping out lords and just winning fights. The Assassin's Trophy with the Rival Head Talisman, basically neutering whatever it is they fight. Oh, and guys, if you don't know the Ixchit Triads, these guys are the Regiments of Renown. They can make like a doppelganger of themselves. And it's, you know, it can be useful for blocking cav charges, things like that. And then the Eshin Sorcerer here, taking Warp Stars and Brittle Bone, which I don't think is a spell I've ever cast. But we'll get a chance to see it here. My build, as you can see, I still can't see these guys. I'm anticipating that I'm being Vanguard deployed against in the rear. So I'm taking some of the wings of my formation and I'm moving them around to the back. I'm also moving my Vampire Fleet Captain, my Morgul Haunter, which is a character you don't see too many people take very often. In picking here, my opponent switched to Skaven after going from Dwarves, and I thought to myself, you know what, I'm going to pause it for a sec. I thought to myself, man, let's do it like a can opener Dwarf build, an old-fashioned like Morgul build, but then switch to Skaven. So I wanted something more well-rounded. I've got mortars back here for dealing with blobs of infantry, which is pretty much always a good choice versus the Skaven. Unless they go Warp Lightning Cannons, I'm not too afraid of losing these. They're also super cheap. 600 gold is pretty negligible. Like I said, Vampire Fleet Captain, decided to take her on the on the Promethean. Looking pretty sweet. Only 2 spells here. Spirit Leech for a little bit of Lord fighting help. And then also Doom and Darkness, which I find is an incredible spell versus this Skaven. If they blob up, let's say this entire flank blobs up here, I can overcast it, go -16 leadership with a little bit of terror from my Sirens or from the Morgul, which is, you know, my primary sources of terror. We can rout off entire flanks. I'm going to have 3 swords of terror. So this is kind of the idea behind it, guys. 1 Siren on this flank, 1 Siren on this flank, Morgul Haunter up the center, and just like that, I've got complete terror coverage against the Skaven, which is pretty super effective. So why did I choose Sartosa? Well, I love the combination of the 300 gold zombie pirate deckhand mobs who can mix it up with Skaven, clan rats, and Skaven slaves pretty easily. And then I back them up with the Sartosa militia, which are basically like the Empire's free company militia. I don't know if the stats are identical. But they have Rowdy, which gives them leadership and perfect vigor. And, you know, if you deploy them correctly, I like to do kind of a staggered deployment where they can shoot at multiple angles. And, you know, they can be incredibly effective versus Skaven, especially if they're summons. You know, they're not going to be like your standard Vampire Coast riflemen who are going to get beat the heck out of in melee, even by a summoned group of clan rats. These guys can stand and fight. So having them as my range component, I felt like was pretty effective. I've even got the Tide of Skjold here, which have Frenzy and Rowdy. So they're a much stronger unit than your standard variant. They have Perfect Vigor, which is pretty sweet too. Yeah, just a much better unit, and they're not that expensive. I like them in this matchup. And then as a bit of a buffer here, the animated Hulks, I just wanted to have a super varied army. But they're going to be here causing their terror, or their fear rather, and just engaging. They can smash clan rats for days. It takes a while for a basic clan rat to get through a unit like this, a chunky unit. They have great weapon strength, and if I needed some mass, I'd be happy to have them to block charges, maybe from rat ogres is probably how I would use them. And then lastly, I've got in the rear here some depth guard held in deep reserve, just in case there was some artillery madness. They're my highest value thing that I don't want to get sniped out, and they're going to back up Aranessa if needed, and if not, they'll find their niche later in the game. Now, Aranessa does not have a lot of armor. Let's go ahead and load that up. But physical resistance 20%, and you know, with all hands ahoy, that's her ability to boost leadership and weapon damage. But Manan's Luck is where you get the damage resistance and melee defense that makes her somewhat tanky. And there's one other unit which I forgot to mention, I realize now, which I didn't see until a good portion of the game later, was Natty Bubo's Sharpshooters. And these guys are incredibly powerful because they have great range at 275. Really good missile strength with Shield Breaker attached. But they also have Snipe, which even while they shoot, they're invisible. But you can tell it they're there and their positioning by their purple shots. So I knew they were there. I could kind of tell where they were, but I also knew that I couldn't reach them. So there was nothing to it but to do it and just try and win the fight the old-fashioned way. Let's go ahead, hit play. My mortars are not going to be the most effective this battle because I didn't get a lot of time to fire them, you know. And we're going to have some counter skirmishing here. I'm going to bring in my zombie pirates. Once I realize what the game is, I'm like, oh crap, they're upon me. I'm going to start deploying my assets as needed. Sirens are going to get in, up and around. Their physical resistance is going to be quite useful here. The Morngul is going to get in. Animated Hulks are going to get taken down pretty damn fast by Natty Bubos. I actually wondered at the time what melted them, because I didn't see the purple fire yet. And you might think like, man, how the hell did you miss it? But it was honestly quite easy to miss. Doom and Darkness mixed with the Terror Bomb of the Morngul Haunter. We might be able to route some stuff just right off the jump. Death Runners get routed almost instantly. Fires going off in all directions. Keeping my Depth Guard in deep reserve. Vampire Fleet. I'm going to see where all the heroes are. Remember, they keep fading in and out of like hidden status. So I didn't know where exactly I wanted to send my lords and heroes. And then this is where I started to notice the Natty Bubos. I was like, oh, hell no. And I start to move my Vampire Fleet Captain up and away. All hands ahoy. Deathmaster Sigil was popped. But we're not going to let Snickage get this snipe for free. Eshin Sorcerer plus Snitch are trying to goon out my Morngul. But with a little mass help from the Fleet Captain and Araness Assault Spite, they're going to be able to do quite a bit of work. And the Sartosa Militia are just straight up supporting. And despite how high tier Death Runners, Gunner Runners, and Triads are, they're not trading that efficiently versus, you know, my Meat Shield units who have high numbers and are kind of perfect versus stuff like Triads. They just got so much to chew through, and we're able to bully the Deathmaster, but when he runs away, he's so fast at 60 speed. So we're just having to like cycle targets, these assassins, over and over again. Slippery is popped. We've routed this entire center, and we routed this entire flank. But guys, I still can't see Natty Bubos. The Death Guard showed up, started whopping on these dudes. Maybe they had a chance to kind of win this flank against the Sartosa Militia. But I'm going to lose my mortars, but I'd rather them shoot at my mortars than my Depth Guard, who are 1,000 gold. And at this point, the Hero Corps has been taken to task. Deathmaster's coming back in with concealment bombs. But there's no good answer to the Sirens. They don't rely on armor. You need magic damage to deal with them effectively. and we can kind of slow-mo it for a sec as some of these fights get going. But yeah, the Sirens are going to have a great time fighting the Death Runners. That's kind of an ideal fight for them. Yeah, there's no magic damage on the field, I don't think, for the Skaven. So they were an excellent choice in the Morgul Haunter. I don't think people look enough at these boys and see just how like huge and terrifying they are. And together with Aranessa, you know, she was getting sniped for a second, so you pop the damage resistance, the melee defense, and yeah, just let the mass of my other heroes allow me to push through here. The Tide of Skill just not going quietly into that good night with their extra leadership and staying close to the Lords. Yeah, so just choosing my targets. At some point, I felt like I was going to have to deal with the Natty Boobos, but I didn't realize they were so low on ammunition already. But they have been firing unimpeded this entire time. 36 kills on the mortars. It's not like there were tons of clan rats for me to shoot at. I mean, it was all high tier stuff. So even 36 kills is kind of a lot when you consider the quality of the troops that they were fighting against. And the Vampire Fleet Captain, despite having half of its armor taken away, just absolutely punts this guy. And with another Doom and Darkness, we're going to pop it to break the Lord and Heroes. Yeah, I was hoping for a shatter. And once the Deathmaster shatters, most Skaven are probably sure to follow. Terror plus Doom and Darkness. It's a pretty great combo, plus overwhelming, you know, odds. You kind of shape the circumstances that you need, and you can break the Skaven pretty effectively. So kudos to my opponent, Dog of War, for bringing a very fun build, a potentially very meta and good build, but against what I brought, just not a good matchup, honestly. Some of my units were a little bit ineffective. The mortars were trash. You know, if I knew what my opponent was bringing, I wouldn't bring mortars. I would probably bring more stuff like Sartosa. I'd probably bring more ranged tools and just more mass. More mass for them to have to deal with. Animated Host didn't do very well other than to take all of the initial fire from Natty Boobos, which may have ended up working in our favor. If my opponents had to deal with Depth Guard and stuff in the end with no ammunition from Natty Boobos, I don't know how they would have dealt with them. All these units on the battlefield fighting the Depth Guard, I think the Depth Guard take the remnants of all of these types of enemies. But guys, that's going to be it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Brett. Sorry if my voice is a little bit hoarse. I'm still dealing with the remnants of some jiu-jitsu training, but it's getting better. Got a bottle of water here. I'm just kind of chugging it. Anyway, y'all, I'll see you in the next one. If you know what, I haven't promoted this in a while because I honestly haven't had the time to check it too much, but I should. I really should. We have a Discord channel. I do always post the link in the video descriptions that I make. There is a Total War section. There are people who use that. I don't get to get on there as much as I'd like, mostly because I got kids, I got jiu-jitsu, I'm a full-time college student, I make my videos, I've got a lady friend, I got a lot of stuff going on, and I just don't have time to like chill in the Discord as much as I'd like. But there is a way for you guys to send me your replays, and I have casted a lot of them in the past. I just haven't done it recently, but it actually might be a bit of a time saver for you guys to send me the replays instead. And if you have a good one, I love casting replays because I don't watch them ahead of time, and for me it's just like getting to watch a fun match. So Discord link down below. If you'd like to submit a replay, you can do it there. And yeah, guys, thanks so much for watching once again. I'll see you in the next one. Later, y'all.